All right, listen, in all-time history, there is no other way. We're in Miami. Flew in yesterday from the greatest state in the union, that is New Jersey.
Whoa, dude. I'm from Chicago, and Chicago is on top.
Nah, dude. New Jersey runs the show.
Nothing like stars from a paradise. Don't care, cause there's magic in the air tonight. Pretty girl in my ear, she the rarest type. Heaven on earth is right here tonight. I'm in the dream state. I'm in the dream state.
Jake Shore, how we doing, brother?
Dude, I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for coming back to the city of palm trees and bikinis. And yeah, man, I'm glad you're here. I'm happy to be talking with you.
Oh, this is amazing. Now, you recently came to Miami, or when?
Yeah, I've just moved here like 2 or 3 months ago. I'm at a spot in my career where, like, luckily I can kind of work from wherever. And I was like, you know what? For the time being, let's just go down to Miami. So I'm on a long vacation, extended vacation. I tell everybody I went to Miami Music Week and played there this year, and I never left.
Dude.
So that's basically it, yeah.
Well, when you come to this city, I mean, this is the first time I came to Miami as well. It was like you didn't want to leave.
Yeah, it's a good vibe here. You can tell that there's just like a different energy in the air here. I mean, everybody's focused on their fitness. Everybody's on their grind. Everybody's beautiful. So I'm trying to keep up here, okay? Yeah. So it's great though. It's definitely, the energy's palpable, and I feel like for everybody that was telling I was gonna move here, they're like, yeah, I get it. I could see that. Yeah, you definitely can fit in Miami. So yeah, it's been great, man.
Well, before this, you were in Boston, correct?
I was in Boston. Yeah. I lived there for a year. That was more of like a strategic move for my career, in the sense, like, I just got picked up by my first management team, which is Big Night Talent, and I'm still with them, very happy with them. But it was like an opportunity for me to just get really get close with them, build a rapport with them in person, which I still feel like is king no matter what you say. And it paid dividends. We've crushed it this past year, and getting to know them on a personal level and out in Boston, it had helped so much at the time. So
yeah, well, this past year, I mean, I went back and I literally scrolled through your TikTok, and I went to the very beginning. I went to the first one, so watched it throughout the years. But it was this past year, things have just been going amazing for you, and it's just been. Really, if you look at the story, it has been over that period of time, you've really been working through it all.
I've been grinding, brother. Like Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1.
Dude.
Yeah, I'm looking for my hidden tape.
Come on, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1, that's fire.
Watch out. What's Goldfinger, the band in there?
Yep.
Here I am.
Dude.
Get it all.
I'm telling you what,
Don't get me started,
drop,
dude. Don't get me started, yeah.
So, but, in terms of, obviously, the story, you were a teacher.
Yeah.
And you grinded through that, and then obviously your social media presence has grown significantly over the past couple years.
Yeah.
I guess take me back before all that, and just as it pertains to the music, when did you first get into music? I know DJing, I think around 8 or 9 years you've been doing it?
Yeah, so I've been DJing for about 8 or 9 years, probably 10 coming up now, but I think it all starts with my family. It just, my dad, my mom. It's funny, I just told my mom the other day, because I always give my dad so much credit when it comes to, like, he showed me everything. Like, I'm wearing an Alan Jackson t-shirt right now. Like, people are like, oh, country. Like, I grew up on everything. My first concert was with him. I went to go see Judas Priest out at like the Tweeter Center or something, I think, out in Chicago and whatnot. So he just gave me so much knowledge, and like, between him and my family, like, dancing was always such a huge part of everything we did, all the parties we went to. You couldn't not dance. I remember feeling like really early on, like almost embarrassed, because like they wouldn't let you not dance. So it kind of was forced onto me, which I'm so thankful for now. But going back to, like, I always give my dad that credit, but I want to make sure I give my mom some credit too right now. She's not the most musically inclined person, but what she gave me was the ability to be the creativity that you see that comes with it all, that's matched with it, all comes from her. I mean, this lady she could paint you a picture of what our backyard looks like to a T. She could build a birdhouse and then fill the whole tree with birdhouses by hand. She can do anything and everything. So yeah, my parents, that's where it definitely starts from. And then I'd like to also say, like, I realized the schooling and the experiences I had at Chicago Public Schools definitely you know, my parents brought me and opened me up to music, but it's at those schools and the kids that I met and the schools that I went to that took children from all over the city, all different walks of life, races, religions. It was a melting pot of everybody's cultures. So I was opened up to all the hip hop, all the reggaeton, like just anything and everything. And then throughout that whole time, I didn't even realize it, but the house music, it was all house music technically, you know? And so I didn't really come into that until like 3 or 4 years ago, where I realized, oh my God, I was raised on this type of music and I didn't even know it. And I think that's the beautiful thing about house music right now is like, everybody likes it. Most people just don't even know it yet. You know what I mean? So, or they don't realize that they've been liking it. So yeah, man, I have to thank, basically what I'm saying is Chicago. Everything about Chicago is what kind of led me to have the musical prowess and sense that I have today.
Yeah, Chicago, I mean, that's one city that I've been trying to get to.
We got to get you there.
Dude, I have to get out there. Well, now, especially since we're connected, we definitely got to go.
Yes.
I mean, you got Cubs or White Sox?
Cubs. Well, I'm not a baseball guy, so if the hat matches the outfit, I'm wearing a Sox hat.
Okay.
But so I'm a fair weather fan, and people are going to hate me for it, but I'm not a big baseball guy in general. But if I had to choose, if you're asking me where I'm going to go on a Saturday night or day game bleachers, I'm going to the Cubs game, 100%. I grew up near Wrigley. So it's kind of been sewn into I grew up on the north side as well. So it's just been around that I've always been a Cubs fan, but if I'm repping Chicago, that's all I care about.
Yeah. Wrigley Field is on my list to get to.
Dude, I was just there a couple weeks ago. Yeah, it's still the best place in the world. I went to Fenway when I was in Boston, and they got their own history there. It just personally wasn't the same for me. Leave it at that, but Wrigley is Wrigley, man. I think the thing about Wrigley is you have the whole community around it, which has changed so much since they won the World Series, which seems like so long ago now. But I mean, you go to Wrigley now compared to when I went there as a kid, it's insane how much they've built up. It's like a big outdoor mall, like it's this whole strip, right? But you have that bar scene and community, so it's like you don't just go to a game. You go 3 hours before the game, get wrecked. Go to the game, then you leave 7th inning, go to the bars, get wrecked. You're there all day. It's quite like going to an amusement park, but instead of going with your family, you're going with your best friends and having a hell of a time. So
yeah, I
buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks, man.
Dude, we're locked in. I'm definitely got to get over there. So.
I'm getting them juiced up. Yeah. Well, this is the best time to go too. I mean, let's be honest. You guys come from the East Coast. Midwest is very similar in terms of seasons. I would argue you guys have a little bit more gray days than we do, but it gets cold, right? So the summer is where it's at. You guys have the Jersey Shore, get out there in the summer, right? We have the lakefront. The summer is where it's at, man. I mean, I was just in Chicago the last couple weeks for different reasons, and we can get into that too, but there ain't nothing like it. There ain't nothing like that fucking place in the summer, man.
And we were talking about this before the pod, but I have a feeling you with Chicago is like me with New Jersey.
As it should be too, and I respect that. Like I'm not gonna. I know we were joking about it before. I'm not gonna sit here and try and argue with you, which is better. It comes back to where you raised, and like you're just being prideful of the place that you were born, and like that type of person is who I respect. Not necessarily where it is.
Yeah.
It's about like this guy loves where he comes from. There's a certain, it's just like anything, respecting your own home, like literally your actual home, and then like the city you come from, it's like, it is what makes you, right? So yeah, I think we're both in the same spot right there. We're very prideful of the places we come from, no matter where we go, right?
Oh, always repping New Jersey. I mean, well, you said it, you go, this guy is so Jersey. Like, there's no time, that's what you want.
Just like I would want, you could tell he's from Chicago.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, fuck yeah, I am. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, well, I just saw a post that you just mentioned it too, that you just recently went back there.
Yeah.
Now, this is something I want to talk about because I recently, over the last year and a half, have been kind of traveling too. I was actually just out in California.
Okay.
I was living with my buddy Will in Venice Beach in LA. So very different from New Jersey, just obviously the opposite coast. So, and I had been all over. I mean, we went to Miami Music Week. I was kind of traveling the last year and a half once Red's closed, the bar that we had.
Okay.
And I got to the point where I realized, you know what, like, I really just want to get back to being in New Jersey. Now, when the summer comes around, there is no other way.
Yeah.
Which is a staple Redism, but that is a fact.
I love it.
New Jersey in the summer, the Jersey Shore, from, we'll call it Point Pleasant because of Jenks, up to Belmar. That is the area where you will find gold. It is gold. It is the definition of it. But you know, throughout it all, just aside from being the summer, like I came to a point where I was like, I just want to get home and be back with the people I grew up with, the people I know there, and we'll get into that story as well. But I saw you just posted about that recently, that you went back. What was that? Was there a specific reason to return to Chicago? Because from that post, it seemed like you had wanted to get back there.
Yeah, if we would have had this conversation a month ago, I probably wouldn't even have had this on my heart and on my head. But I actually think it's so important for us to talk about this too, because I think a lot of people that are going to watch this in general, even if you are in a business like us where we're traveling and we're trying to grow our businesses in other cities and whatnot, like I am with touring and you are with the podcast or whatever you're doing. I think just in general, right? We live in a time where it's normal for you to get out of your city and possibly live somewhere else. But something that I've found, and it hit me like a fucking bag of bricks or whatever the term is, the phrase is. I was really homesick. I think that's really what it came down to. I've been traveling nonstop, as you know, and just week in and week out, literally since last August. I think I've done over 45 cities. And I am not complaining. I know there's a lot of DJs that might watch this and be like, dude, it's amazing. Yeah. But it's still travel. It's still physically getting from place to place. And then at the end of the day, you know, and most recently, I think I haven't given myself like the grace that you should give yourself when you are uprooting your life. And now that I've done it twice in the last like 2 years, it's not, my mom told me that it's not normal. Like you're putting a lot on yourself, and I know that you can do it, but you also need to give yourself some grace. And I think I hadn't done that. I've neglected that. And yeah, up until about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I needed a break. And I knew I was going home. I was playing a big festival out there, Beyond Wonderland. And I set it up so I was going to be staying the whole week. But it was up until that week, I finally like reached out to my team, which like they know I never do this. But I was like, I need a break. I need to just spend time at home, no phone, no contact, like legit. I didn't want to scare them, but I needed to vocalize that. And the time at home was well spent. I got to see all my people that I needed to see, my family, but it also allowed me to like focus on maybe some other things that I had been neglecting, like some real life things. Because like you said, like just that need of tending to Jake, not Jake Shore. Yep. All I do is tend to Jake Shore. I focus on Jake Shore project. But taking that time to tend to Jake is something I haven't been able to do as easily because I've uprooted myself. So like having a personal life in Boston or having a personal life here, it takes a lot of work. All of that I feel like I've been missing is at home in Chicago. And it's that work-life balance that I think we all need, because you can so easily get caught up in everything you're trying to do for your career and whatever, right? But now I'm realizing why home is so important, because you have that baked in. So I got that, and then went back 2 weeks later. I was just there last week because all the things I didn't do when I was on that break and I needed to do at home promo-wise. I got a big show coming up, and release-wise, I got a big release coming up, Chicago. That's very Chicago-driven. So I spent another week at home, and it was amazing, man, because I also still focused on getting out to certain things that I like to do in the summer, going to a Cubs game, going up to the North Shore, hanging out, just like chilling with my family. And I came back this week, and I just feel invigorated. I feel dialed in. I see the vision clear. And so to anybody that's watching this, and I will say, I think sometimes I think going home means I'm going backwards, but it's not. It's home. It's fucking home, and don't forget that. So if you're watching this and you feel, and you're not living at home, or you're not living in the place you grew up, like, it's okay to lean on that network and those friendships and relationships you've built. Go back to them. It's there. It's always going to be there. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, it's gotten me thinking a lot about what the future holds as far as how long I'm going to be here in Miami and, you know, all that stuff. But yeah, man. Long-winded answer, but I think, you know, you were kind of leading to that, and like I said, a month ago, I probably wouldn't even have had that realization yet. So
yeah, when I saw that post, I figured, because I was in that same position when right before I came back.
What post are you talking about? You talking about the one where I kind of was a little bit vulnerable and like explained that like I hadn't been myself in a
and you had
a
couple bullet points of like what was, you were dancing in the park to your newest release.
So it was a juxtaposition post, because like in the post, I'm very, if anybody goes and sees it, I'm dancing and like just dancing in public at North Avenue Beach. But in the post, I kind of opened up and explained that like this is the first time I've felt like myself in a while. And I think the main reason I'm feeling like myself is because I'm back home. So just some context there for anybody watching, but go ahead, carry on. Sorry,
Yeah, and I'll clip it in when I do the clip so people can see what I'm talking about. But when I was reading it, it kind of put me back in that zone as well of where I was. And I was like, man, I think you hit so many good points there, but you know, when you're grinding, and especially with all the success you've had over these recent years, like you can sometimes get caught up in just like I need to work, and I just need to go after it, and like, okay, what's next? Where am I going here? What am I doing? Where are we getting to? What's our final goal? Where is the destination? And you kind of miss the things along the way that make that entire journey like worth it, you know? And so I had also come to that point, and it was great. I mean, I was living out in California. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like you were saying, like it was great. It was awesome. I'm moving out in Cali in January. I'm skating the Venice Beach skate park. Like it was great, you know? But I just found myself as time went on, I was like, you know what, I need to get back. Like I need to get back to where my roots are. You know, short story for how I ended up there was I had a bar that I opened with my family called Reds in New Brunswick at Rutgers University. Okay. And it was during the pandemic time. Yeah. So during that time, when everything shut down, it was tough. We opened August 2019. Not a great time. 6 months later, lockdown. Yeah. Didn't open for another 6 months. You were one of those stories then. I'm sure a lot of people have them, but yeah, that sucked. Tough. So it became a blessing. It was a blessing and a curse.
Of course.
The whole next year when we reopened, I was pushing the limits. I was letting everybody in. I actually thought we were dead before that. I was like, there's no way. I mean, Rutgers went online. I said, no one's going to be here. It's over. We just opened. It's my family business. We have 2 other Reds that have been open. You know, my dad and my uncle run those spots, and they wanted to open this 3rd one. So we opened it, and then I was like, we're done. There's no way. The blessing was that the students, having no class, couldn't get out of their leases from the year before. So all they had was time to party, and they wanted to be together. Their final year of college, they're all seniors. That's the only people that came back.
There's your flowers, right? Yeah.
We had the biggest space. I said, fuck it all. I'm letting them in. They want to be here. We're doing it. And because of that, they got to know me because, again, you had that whole limited capacity thing that whole year. Yeah. So, like, I was somewhat limiting, trying to keep it where if we were going to get checked on, we could get it contained. Got to know these kids, more and more people, word of mouth. They're posting on their social media. People are seeing, they're like, what's going on at this place, Reds, you know? And it was new. Yeah. So that helped carry it to the next level. Unfortunately, after it really took off, I mean, we turned this place into a club. I'm talking Ciisnero $2 Tuesdays off the charts, dog. I mean, this place was juiced. And it was awesome. But, you know, we had to end up closing because of the backed up expenses. And it was tough. I had started the podcast. You asked me when I got into it around the time, the fall right before we closed, before 2023 started. Okay. So fall of 2022, we started it.
I want to stop you really quick right there and just let you know, the way you carry a success, and I don't want to use the word failure, but it being closed down, that's amazing. Because some people would be ashamed to say, it closed down or whatever. You still wear it with pride. So just like, I don't know if anybody's ever told you that, but like, that's really hard for a lot of people to swallow and then even put out there, and especially on camera. Yeah. But it's part of your story, and I think a lot of people don't realize that like it's never A to B, it's A fucking, and then maybe B.
Oh man.
And then sometimes B turns into C, D, E, and F. You know what I mean? So sorry, keep going. I didn't mean to mess you up, but
thank you. I appreciate it.
I just noticed that you carry it very well, and I think that's important for any person who wants to be successful. You have to carry your losses and your failures and realize that they're not really failures. They're just yellow lights.
It's sometimes just a blessing in disguise.
Exactly.
Because again, the reason I thought we would close is the reason that it actually ended up taking off. Like all these kids needed somewhere to go. So that took off, and then I wanted to keep going with the content. It had been such a crazy year and a half for me in particular, the way it took off and what I was doing, managing it. You know, I just wanted to continue that story. I didn't want it to end. So of course. I became very close with all those kids. Started the podcast, and I said, you know what, while I have this time right now, I'm going to go. I helped my dad at the other location until the Devil season ended. It's right next to Prudential Center in Newark. And then I went full force on the podcast for the last year and a half. Yeah. And I think that's where it led me to that point of like, okay, now I want to go back home. And where I'm at with it right now is coming doing a podcast like this where, you know, I saw you're playing next week and Ciisnero's direct support.
It's perfect.
So it's like the timing couldn't be better. And now we actually get to connect before that night. And now it makes that night even more special.
Universe literally working for itself.
So like that's kind of where it comes down to. And again, it's all part of the story.
Well, dude, I mean, look, the other thing is too, there's a reason for everything that happens, and it's really hard to realize that when it's bad, right? You're like, why is this fucking happening to me? But the universe has weird ways of working itself out, and it's not always a transaction either, right? Like this bad thing happens and then it automatically leads to something good. It sometimes is this bad thing happens, you now start vocalizing your needs, your wants, your changes, what you're gonna get better at, and just by communicating that to the people around you, going back to the home thing, I had a mental breakdown a couple weeks ago when I went home. That break that I was trying to take, it led me to actually realize that there was things I was neglecting. And honestly, I just needed to break down in front of my parents. Because at the end of the day, they don't give a fuck about what I'm doing. I'm their baby boy. So maybe that was the reason I needed to go home. But then what it also allowed me to do was open up about what are things, you know, again, I mention my mom a lot. My mom's like, you carry way too much on yourself. And you try and fix everything yourself because you think that, and you are strong, you're the strongest person I know, but there's some things you need to offload. And then that conversation went back to my management team, when my management team for the past year has been the 3 prongs that every artist needs eventually when they want to, you know, scale, which is management, agent to do the booking, and then a label to handle the music. They were doing all 3. And now that I have an agent, just signed with UTA, and I just signed with Third Brain, which is a music label, they finally can just manage. And so for me, getting these new teams and like having that conversation with my mom to learn to offload things to either them personally or now my teams, that's been a huge like shift in my mindset. Like I need to let my ego go and say, wait, no, you guys are here for this. You do it, help me out. Or like, you know, let some of that burden off onto other people. And of course, the teams that are invested are like, yeah, that's what we're here for. So going back to like, you think something bad happens, and it's not always a direct transaction, but maybe it's just a time for you to stop, reset, and learn and vocalize and get people to know what you need help with so that, yeah, I think that for me, it was just accumulation of way too much shit that all hit at once. But yeah, I mean, it goes back to what I think we started at home. And they say that like, right, home is where the heart is. Home is where everything is. When push comes to shove, I know I can go back to Chicago and I'll be all right. I can go back to Chicago and I can be a school teacher again and I'll be okay. As long as I'm not starving, I got my family, you'll be okay. And I think it's very easy for guys like us and people, and most people these days who are trying to make something of themselves to forget about that shit, right? So
yeah, I think returning home is something, and that point that you just made about like you can always go back and it's not wrong to do that. You said like,
yeah, I could go back and be a teacher if I wanted to.
Dude, and that's one thing I actually wanted to talk about too is the whole teaching saga.
Absolutely.
Because I mean, it ended up becoming something that was so ingrained in your story, the way it kind of built itself in. You know, first and foremost, what made you want to be a teacher? Was that something you always wanted to do?
So I mentioned my mom again. My mom one summer was like, Jake, you know, I think it'd be good if you know, as like a resume builder at the time, she's like, there's this camp that one of her best friend's sons that I went to school with goes to, where he's a counselor for children with disabilities. This was back when I was like 16 years old. It's called Camp SOAR. It's like up in Wisconsin, like one of the lakes up there, which isn't too far from where we're at in Chicago. And literally just on a whim, I was like, sure, I'll go do it and volunteer. So went up there for a week, got paired up with a child named, I'm gonna never forget his name. His name's Andrew. He had Down syndrome. And you're paired up with like one camper for the week. And dude, I fell in love with it. I felt like I had such a purpose. I saw the impact it made on the kids and the community of counselors there were kids just like me, and I just found like another family there. Went back the next year for 2 weeks. The following year became like a camp like coordinator, and that led into my college years. Eventually applied for elementary education for my major, got that, and yeah, the rest was history, man.
Well, I mean, what I could tell from the social media, you know, watching the story is how much you enjoyed it. It seemed like like you loved it.
Yeah, I did. I mean, like I said, not only obviously the impact you can make on kids by being that mentor, being that influence, teaching, but also, yeah, it made me feel great. It made me feel like I was doing something worth doing. And then in the place in the time we live in now, documenting that, because we grew up, our teachers didn't document what they looked like as a teacher, and like also timesing that by being a male teacher, who's also happens to be a DJ and is using music as a way to like boost the classroom environment and culture. It's like, dude, we talked about this before. I don't think that's ever been done before. I have never seen anything like that. Like, of course, there's teachers out there that use music, but to document it and kind of utilize it the way that I did, and at the time I did, because I didn't start making those TikToks until a month after I put in my year's leave of absence. I was ready to quit teaching already. And then a month later, TikTok was kind of coming around, and I was like, I got to start figuring out a way to like really do this and like do it versus like just being like, hey, stream my music, So I started just documenting the songs I would play for the kids in the beginning of the day, and like you couldn't really ever see the kids. You just see me at my desk because you couldn't put them on camera, but you could hear the energy. It was palpable, right? And like, again, probably helped that I was a male teacher. It probably helped that it was, energetic dance music and, not something I couldn't play them. All that at the time, especially also TikTok was still new. Most people didn't have a TikTok yet. Perfect timing. And yeah, it led to my management team seeing me. It led to me getting my first couple million streams on different songs. So, but I also knew that I was ending. Like the teaching career was ending, so I knew I needed to pivot. And what I realized though, what you've probably seen by going back through all my content, I think I have a really good job of being authentic through the screen and people really feeling my energy through the screen and trusting that what I'm saying and what I'm doing comes from a place of realness. And I'm not trying to sell you on anything. I'm literally just, and like there are people that I have had to sell and like make believe that this is who I am. I think a lot of the industry is still being convinced, but a lot more of them are now, that I am a music producer before I'm a content creator, that I've been dancing my whole life. I'm not just dancing for TikToks. What you see is that's who I am. And you can ask any of my friends from back home, talked about home a lot. I have friends that hit me up, they're like, dude, it's so funny. You're just doing the shit that we've been doing our whole lives and people are now finally catching on. And I was like, keep that energy, keep that thought, because that's what I want to remind people at the end of the day is like, I'm just repping Chicago and what we used to do in Chicago,
Yeah, well, through your content and in that teaching content and all the other, like you can feel that.
Good.
And that's one thing, the energy, like I said at the beginning, you may very well be the definition of energy. Through social media, through a screen, a lot of times it gets lost in translation. But one thing that I've been able to pick up on a lot is feeling someone's true energy through what they're putting out.
Yeah.
And I think just given the volume of content you put out, if it was something that was fake, if it was like some type of thing that wasn't actually you, first of all, it wouldn't even be sustainable, but people would catch on to that.
Exactly.
Like you would see that. There's no way to keep up with the amount of volume that you were doing with social media. And then again, it comes back to like you were just documenting what you do.
Right.
And it was cool how you fused it because you have the whole house music you should start your day with, right? And then now you're in the classroom starting the day with house music for the kids, which by the way, house music, I mean, it's all time. It's the ultimate, you know what I mean?
Well, it's also valuable. And I think at the end of the day, if you're a content creator, or you're just starting out in content, you have to ask yourself, what value am I providing the person that's watching the content? It may seem like you need to make content for you and for your own brand and to put yourself, it is, but if you can figure out a way to get your name and your story out there, but still give a value. So if you think about house music you should start your day with, it had the three value pillars, which is it entertaining, is it educational, or is it inspirational? Well, I can argue that that's all three. I'm educating you on, this is a song you should know and you should start your day with. I'm saying you should start your day with it, like it's motivational, inspirational, and then it's entertaining because I'm either lip syncing it or I'm dancing to it, or at the time you heard the kids in the background vibing to it. So, and dude, full transparency, I still struggle with that. I think as I've grown bigger, I start to I get the feeling of, I got to do what the other guys are doing, or I have to start making my shows look like this. But then I realize it's starting to take the fun out of making content. So if you look at my content most recently, the volume is back, but it's also, and one of my friends just messaged me, he's like, dude, you look like you're having fun with it again. For a while there, I think I was trying to keep up with the industry standard, and I think there's a level of that, there are certain types of content I need to push out, but I still need to make it my own. So we were talking before we jumped on, like I have a 2-clip reel that's like from my show. It's very popular now for DJs to have like a 2-angle shot of their show, one from the crowd, one from like the booth. And yeah, I could just post that like most DJs, but I got to keep using the story. So the hook on it is wild how I went from being a 3rd grade teacher to now I'm teaching room full of ravers how to dance, you know? And like, also how many other DJs can put that on there? Like, yeah, it was 2 years ago, but it was 8 years of my life. It's part of my story and something for you to think about too. Like I went from owning a bar to traveling the nation and doing a podcast. Like you're giving people a snapshot, but then you take it one step further. Here's how I did it. Where's the value now? Now anybody watching that, a young producer, young entrepreneur, young guy, girl or guy trying to get in a podcast, not only are you showing them that it's possible, you have the credibility, but now you're giving me the tips on how to do it. On the back end, the psychology of it is you just made them watch the video 4 more times. You made them stop on the video, read the caption. Those things add to the algorithm too. You know what I mean? So I can go for hours about all that stuff, but yeah, it's taxing. I will say I can't sit here and be like, yeah, I'm just naturally good at it. I think, yeah, I am in a lot of ways, but I also go through ebbs and flows of it, and that's natural too. I've had moments where I've jumped 40, 50,000 followers on Instagram in like 2 months. I've also been in downtimes where it's kind of like, but I think as long as you're having fun with it and you're being real with it, like the one thing you said is there's no way you could be doing this amount of volume if like it wasn't really what you like to do. Yeah. You have to try and keep that energy because it does get exhausting. And now that like the suits and the music industry cats have like caught on to like, oh, content's actually more important than the music now. It's like, you gotta make more content, you gotta make more content, you gotta make more content. All right, bro, like I get it, but instead of just telling me to make more content, I'm blessed with teams that like, majority of our calls is like, here's my ideas, do you have any ideas based off of that? Or how can I turn that one idea into 5 ideas? So, you know, kudos to my team and to any other teams out there that are actually bringing things to the table for their artists and not just saying, you gotta post more content. There's a great manager named Corinne from the Midas Touch management team. She manages a couple of my homies. She's not a social media person at all, you can tell. But she started this series where she's like, I'm gonna jump on here every day and just to show my artists and other artists and put a more proactive method behind this to show my artists how easy it is to just get on there and be yourself. And all she does every day is just talk about like a tip that she thinks about or a piece of advice that she can give as a manager. And I think what a methodical, great way to push your artists instead of just saying, you gotta push more content. Well, that's fucking exhausting. We have 50,000 other things to do. Oh yeah, and make music, and do this, and promote a show. But she's showing them like, don't overthink it, keep it simple. Just jump on and talk to the screen. And like, man, take a page out of her book if you're a manager, because I think that's amazing. Because I think it's hard for artists out here. It's been put more on the artists now than ever these days to be everything. I'm sure you've experienced just as being a podcast, even business owners, like a bar owner. You can't just get away with not posting things anymore as a bar or as a venue. Your staff these days, it's more important that not only they can do their job, but that they can also get on camera and show people what it's like to live or to work at that place and show their personalities. You could actually get people to come to your bar, walk through that door because they saw one of your staff members on TikTok. It's different now, and I think there's 2 good things, right? People have caught on to it, but now that they've caught on to it, there's like more of that expectation. So, you know, it's a give and take, but it's tough. Yeah.
And it gets, like you said, it gets tough for the artists, especially because one thing about you that you've always done with the social media is you've always related it back to the music, which is like your true passion.
That's important.
And I think what the team sometimes that's not the artist gets sidetracked from is that you love making music.
Yeah.
Like that's what the most important thing is to you. So although you can fire this content, although you're naturally good on camera, although you're like, dude, any team out there watching you on camera would be like, we got to get this guy because like that's something you really, it's not always teachable.
And I used to like wear it as like I want to be known for my music. And what I've realized though is over the past couple of years, when I used to be the one of very few guys who meshed their TikToks with their music, everybody is doing it now. Everybody has caught on. The playing field has leveled. It's very oversaturated. So now I'm acting more than I ever thought I would. If you've seen some of my skits lately, I did one where I'm me walking up to me and I slap myself. But it's like, and I have fun with it though, but I have to like level up. I have to level up and I have to keep, because now every DJ and their mother is like, oh, we see a meme just popped off, the hawk, let me go and make a video of the remix. Okay, I got 60 fucking remixes sent to me of this, which is great and like cool, but to me, and I'm not ashamed to do those, and I will when there's something that connects with me, like I did Jack Harlow's like Lovin' On Me. Well, that was a 90s sample that I connected with. So yeah, I flipped it and it just worked out for me, but it's a slippery slope now with it, you know what I mean? Like, and where I have been told that, you know, there's people that are looking to me as kind of like that benchmark, which is great, but even I'm now trying to push the benchmark. So I don't know where it's gonna go even, too, you know what I mean? I think in your industry, dude, podcasts are really cool. And that's why I've like had my team seeking out podcasts for me to jump on, because that long form content is making a huge comeback, you know?
Oh, it's so popular now. It's like you hear everybody's got a podcast, and then they see how much fucking work it is to edit everything, put the clips together, the pop-ups, the sound effects, and then they fall off. But
this is real though, by the way.
Real.
This is you know, you guys can't see it, but this is a full setup, by the way. He did this real right.
Who set it up, baby? Red. That's who. The Reddcast. Who's gonna do it for you? Nobody. That's one thing I get.
If you're not fucking with Red, you're dead.
Yo, let's go, dog. Come on, sound juice to the fucking gills.
Clip that.
Yo, it's all time. But yo, it's funny. You know, you talked about your mom and dad. I get that from my dad. Like that work ethic is something that was really instilled in me from the beginning. And even funny enough, now when you talk about the bar staff, you can put them on camera. Now that I'm at a point where I have my clips to a professional level, like actually where I want it to be, like kind of like how you said hectic, that sound found you, or you found you, like it goes hand in hand. I, throughout the process of making these clips and doing it, found a nice formula for making these clips and entertaining and balance-wise, where I really like the context of the clip, which was always the most important to me. But now how can I take that and make that a little bit more entertaining?
Yeah.
You know?
Or how could you use that clip in several different ways? Like maybe it's a different hook, or maybe it's a different part of the clip, or that's where you start to really scale, and you go from just posting a couple times a week to, dude, I have 50 pieces of content.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk about this exact thing because there was a couple different clips. There's two clips and TikToks that I want to talk about in regards to that and how you took it and flipped it and made it a different hook. First one was, I forget which order it was in, but the Rock Your Hips.
Okay.
You post a video of you playing the song, and there's a little bit of time in between when you get to the shoulder roll and the wink, right?
Yeah.
Now there's a comment on there that's, the comment that made me think about this question for you in particular was that they said it's the shoulder roll and the eye wink for me.
Yeah.
The next video you post is starting that same clip a little bit later with the shoulder roll and the eye wink, and it went even crazier.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, he must be looking, or I didn't know. My question was, do you look at those things and then like, hey, like let's start it here? Because the other clip I wanted to reference was the letter from your student. Hey, Mr. P, can you please continue to play us house music every morning? I really enjoy it. You posted a little bit lead up to the actual letter, and then you post just you unraveling the letter and reading it as the start, and it got like over 3 million views. Well,
that, and it also then cut to, I built the story of it because the week later, my gym teacher was playing my music, which I didn't set up, believe it or not. Like, I really didn't. He's playing my music in the gym at like a cosmic bowling like unit that they were doing. So the gym's all black lighted out, and I'm just like, I took that video and I cut to, man, this stuff must be really catching on. Boom, that's the one that went. And so yeah, repost your content, I should say repurpose your content, and try things different way. And I got to do it more myself, to be honest with you. The Rock Your Hips example that you're adhering to was, yeah, I posted a video of a certain clip of a certain song, and I noticed it did really well. Then I posted a second video, same video, but I trimmed it down to the part that I noticed somebody commented about, and I changed the hook. I think the hook was now, no, not me leaving my DJ set to go hit on a baddie, which was my girlfriend in the background, and put my phone down 10 minutes later. Bro, I had 350,000 views. And I was like, what's going on? Like, that was the first time I ever like really went viral. But I always ask myself, if I didn't post that second or third video, would I even be sitting here talking with you today? And it really is like that. It's like playing the lottery, but you can do it strategically, and you're playing with house money. You know what I mean? You're not losing anything by posting that video 3 or 4 times. But I think, yeah, it just goes back to anything like analytics and strategy, right? Like as a business, what's working well, what's not. You double down on what's working well, you fine tune it and get it to a point where it works for you even better. I wish I honestly did it more often. I think I do like habitually, but I don't. I need to still do it more often, and realize that just because one post doesn't do as well, maybe there's something about it. Maybe it was the hook. Maybe it was too long. Maybe it needs to start in a different spot. And yeah, while you got the time and you have it's not costing. I mean, I hope there's never a day where it costs you money to post, because that will be scary, right? Where you have, but then again, I feel like maybe that will mess things up, and then people wouldn't be interested in it anymore, right? But either way, it's not costing you anything to post it, so just post it.
Yeah, and I think intuitively, just for me at least, like you post something, you're like, okay, let's move on to the next thing. Like this is already, it's done, it's old.
That's natural.
But again, your content even proves it. Like you just repurposed a video that there's some that didn't do as well the first time you repurposed and then they did well. There's some that did really well and you're like, okay, this video hit, there's something in it, let me repurpose it and use it again. And you see in both instances that it can take off.
Yeah, I think something I've noticed, and we do this with my team, and probably need to fine tune it even more, but I have, biannual reviews on like what content did the best, and then lead with that. And I'm also noticing that, one thing I took away from that, most content where I'm smiling, I'm showing my face, and I'm dancing, typically does well for me. So what do I need to do in all my videos going forward? Show my face, dance, wear some, you know what I mean? And what the content that typically does well is when I'm mentioning something about how I used to be a 3rd grade teacher, but now I'm doing this. So let's start being mindful of that, you know what I mean? Easier said than done. I think part of me too is I love trying new shit and trying new ideas, which isn't bad either, because I think as a business you need to try out new initiatives, and the best thing about it is it's free data. And so now that I have some teams that are focused on that, and guys that really understand that, I have all the creativity and emotion in the world, but the systems I didn't have, right? Now I have those. And yeah, you times those both together, that's the scaling I'm in right now. So, and then it also goes back to mindset with content and music and entrepreneurship too. You gotta almost believe it's already gonna happen. You have to believe it's gonna happen. You have to wake up in the morning and tell yourself it's gonna happen, but on the other side, I read a quote from Gary Vee the other day: enjoy the process and not the prizes. So yeah, you gotta love what you're doing too, because if you hate the content that you're having to make because your management's like, you gotta make this, it's gonna come across the screen. And I realized that too before. No wonder I'm not getting engagement. I look miserable. This isn't my style of content. This isn't like what I do. Most of my content is out in the beautiful sun. It's out in the daytime, which is sometimes hard when I'm DJing, but I could still make it work, you know what I mean? Like as long as I have some of those other components, bright lights, me dancing, smiling, so.
Yeah, I think with social media now, again, it's so accessible for everybody that if you're not using it, and again, one thing, that I mentioned before that you could see with your content is that you always relate it back to the music,
always.
Which is, something we need to dive into as well is
Please.
Music.
Please.
And one thing I will say, you kind of alluded to it before, how you may not want people to just see you for social media, you want them to know that there's music too. When it comes down to it, the skill is undeniable. So
thank you, bro.
When you have the skill, which you do,
thank you,
it will get you to the point you want to be at regardless.
Yeah.
So people may say those things, but then you go and you listen to the music and you're like, oh, well, here we go. This is why everything relates back to it. It's that good, think about obviously Hectic.
Yeah.
One of your most, Fisher rinsed it for a damn year.
Yeah.
Tiesto, it was just, and you listen to that song and first of all, your energy transpired through this. You can feel it,
good.
Yeah. But it's such a good song.
Yeah,
the skill is undeniable. So we'll start with Hectic, I guess, because that one just so much popularity. What was that like when you started realizing how much popularity that song was gaining and seeing people like Fisher playing that?
Hectic was wild. It was like a cat with 9 lives, man. It just kept going and going. When most songs will die out after a month in this fast-paced, fast fashion industry we have of music now, which is like a comparison somebody made the other day. I was like, damn, music is kind of like fast fashion now. it just had lives after lives. And like, Hectic was one of those ones where I've said it before in other podcasts and other interviews. It found me, and I finally felt like I found my sound, which is that 90s Chicago jackin', not only house music, but just dance music. Because I'm starting to now like even dither into other lanes. But I knew as soon as I posted that video on the balcony 2 Miami Music Weeks ago, as soon as I put my phone down, I started to notice people from my grade school, people from high school, people that don't comment were commenting. And that's how you know. And I was like, whoa. And then I went to a couple pool parties and they're like, yo, that one you just posted, it's fucking sick, send me that. I'm like, what do you mean? The one I just posted like an hour ago? So it had legs from the get-go. But then, yeah, man, then you had guys like Fisher, you had Tiesto, Loud Luxury, Acre. I mean, you name them, they played it. And if they didn't play it, they knew it. And I think it was the one that, you know, I said it before for a long time, and I still think I'm always gonna have to prove people wrong, and that's fine. Like I said, being underestimated is my power. So for the longest time, I felt like I had shown people, yeah, I can make a TikTok song, or I can make a TikTok dance. But Hectic is the one I feel like that gave me the credibility with the DJs, and it got me in people's record box and got it to play. And for me, that's all I want. Streams, of course I want the streams, but if the DJs are playing my music, now I'm in with the DJs. And it's shown. I mean, and I think as time's gone on, I've had countless conversations with DJs, and they're the ones making me realize that I have a sound now. They know when it's a Jake Shore song. They know when they hear it, like, yeah, that's Jake Shore. And I was like, damn, okay, like that's fucking awesome. Because I felt like internally had a chip on my shoulder and I've been searching for it, but I've already created it. And it's a beautiful thing, and I'm so glad that that moment happened because it has led to so many other opportunities. And the funny thing is like my best music isn't even out yet. Because most of my music that I have been holding on to is all like the original shit. Because I've technically been flipping music, you know what I mean, and making that a career so far, which is fine too. I'm always gonna be a remixer at heart. But now that I kind of have like that backing with my label, get ready. Because like the Chicago shit is coming. Chicago on Top is a real movement, and yeah, I'm putting my fucking face on the front of it. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's bigger than just music. It's a chance for me to take the experiences I had from my schooling, like we talked about, that mix of cultures, that mix of race and religion and different creeds, walks of life. That's what I'm trying to do with my music. I hope my music brings people together, so when I look out in a crowd, it's all different ages, all different races, and everybody, because that is the essence of house music in general. It's just come as you are, be who you are, you know? So yeah, I haven't really said any of that on a podcast before, but this is the official, now you guys know what I'm doing and what I'm trying to do. So yeah, man, I mean, Hectic kind of started that all. And I'm glad that you noticed that. I'm glad that you're feeling that, because sometimes it's one thing to say it. It's another thing for people to just get it. You know?
And again, goes back to feeling that, like you can feel. And then, of course, you know, you said like finding your sound is something that we talk a lot about, because Ciisnero over the last year has just dialed in on his production and finding that sound.
Yeah.
And to me, you know, I don't really always understand from the outside perspective, from a producer's standpoint, like how important that may be.
Yeah.
Because once you find it, it allows you to be more comfortable and continue moving forward. And then like you drop Take Control, and I mean another banger.
Yes.
I mean, you know, it's
yeah, kind of the Hectic 2 is what I was previously calling it until the label was like, let's start calling it the actual name. I was like, okay, cool. I like to bring it back to the business, right? Or even the podcast. It's niching down, right? And what that does, and what I realized, again, just like content, you need to put out content that other people can relate to and understand. It's not for you. Branding wise, I niched down and said, okay, I'm the Fresh Prince of house music. I don't care if you like it or you don't, that's what I am. So you know what you're gonna get. It's 90s, it's jacking, it's in your face. It's a little bit new, it's a little bit old, but you now know what you're getting. You now know and can understand and connect the dots and say, oh, when I hear a Jake Shore song, it's probably gonna have some of those 90s vibes in it. No matter who I work with or where I put it out or where I play, like my sets too, like, and that's just like a business niching down. Like, am I a sports bar? Are we a bottle service club? the podcast. Am I a podcast that is more about like entrepreneurship? Am I a podcast about, you know, being a girl in your 30s or 20s, or like, if you don't niche down, it's kind of, you're making it hard for the audience to say, can I connect with this or not? You know what I mean? So that's kind of that's what I built, I think, over the past year, and that came after Hectic. So in like the last like 7 to 8 months, I've really fine-tuned the branding. And it's funny because that fine-tuning, now I'm starting to get reached out by labels and reached out by venues or reached out by the label I'm with now. That like branding and that solidification, one of the guys at the label that had been out of the game for a while, his name's Jake Udell, decided to come back recently, and he's been telling the rest of the team, man, I'm really looking for like a Jock Jams 90s artist, somebody that like, and the other dude's like, wait, have you heard of Jake Shore? But he may not have brought that to the table if I hadn't already put that out there. So to any young artists or artists that are looking for their sound, or any entrepreneur, anybody who's doing something creatively, you really just got to go for it and double down on your branding, double down on, but it starts with thinking about who your audience is, right? So my audience is house music lovers, high energy, little bit vintage, little bit nostalgic, colorful, pop, in your face. I'm not a Clooney in the sense that I'm not dark and mysterious. My likeness, you being able to know what I sound like, what I act like, my story, is that of like a Fisher or that of like a Diplo even, where you know what Fisher looks like. You know, a lot of people may know Clooney's music, but I don't know how many people necessarily know what he looks like or what he sounds like, which is nothing against him. He's killing it, he's doing numbers, right? Oh, yeah. But he's decided that him and his team have dove into that. Look at his label, it's called Hellbound or Hellbent. His merch, what he wears, he doesn't really talk too often. I met him once, he's a great guy. But like, there's also that side of it. Like, there is a gimmick to it in a sense. People might not want to use that word, but like, the branding is there. And I take a lot of my branding from WWE. You know what I mean? Like, the people of WWE and Vince McMahon and their marketing is insane. I mean, WWE is back. Whether you like it or not, it's back.
Oh, it's back.
But it's their marketing and how they were able to cut promos and how they were able to mesh cultural, social, you know, the cultural phenomenons of the times together and bring in like, so I take a lot of what I'm doing from that. And it's been, and it's me, you know what I mean? Which is the best part about it, so.
Yeah, well, going along with that, my mom, talking about the parents, Mama Red.
Yes.
Huge 90s music.
A saint.
I said, Mom.
Love it.
Doing a podcast with this guy, Jake Shore.
Yes.
Big DJ, big producer. Check out his music. I just know you'll love it.
Let's go.
Checks it out. Automatic.
You know, it's also funny that you say that, and I take a lot of pride in this, and don't take it the wrong way, but a lot of people that I've met in this industry who have put their moms onto what I'm doing or introduced whatever, the moms, I think, look at me like my mom looks at me, in the sense that there's that a boy, he's doing it, like I love that energy. Yeah. And I feel like that's just an ode to the way I was raised and our moms, the beautiful women that have raised us. And like, you know, I always tried to make it a very serious point to make sure when I walked into my friend's house, like their mom is the one that you have to make sure you win over, that you respect. Oftentimes they're giving us rides, they're making us sandwiches, they're helping, they're cleaning up after our messes, right? Or whatever they're doing, like, yeah, man, keep your moms close. Like, I love my dad, he's my #1 fan, but like I said, I owe all my creativity and every like literally just the person I am and how I think about things is my mom, you know?
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Yeah.
And of course.
So kudos to Mama Red,
of course,
too.
Mama Red,
yeah.
the GOAT.
Hey, man, if I have a crowd full of up-and-coming producers, their moms and their girlfriends, and that's my crowd, then so be it. Because I feel like that is my crowd in some cases. Like, I've looked out there, sometimes you see like a lot of dudes out there, and then the dudes are with their girlfriends, and then I find out that the girlfriends aren't there because of me, their girlfriends are there because the dudes are an up-and-coming DJ, and they're like, we gotta go check out Jake Shore. But you know what? They walk away from the show saying, well, that guy's actually pretty good.
It's undeniable. It's undeniable.
That's all I care about.
Going along with that, I watched the Boston boat party you did.
Yeah.
Oh man, and I sent Mama Red to that too, and I was
Yeah.
like, this from here to here, make sure you listen to that because and it was again, skills undeniable. You may go for that reason. Once you're there, you will be dancing. You will be enjoying your time because that's what it is.
Yeah, that one was important too because I really took a lot of time. It hit me too, like, wow, how just much in a year, how much of a fan base I built in Boston. And, you know, say what you want about Boston, but I think just like us, they are extremely prideful of where they come from. And just little things like standing out of the boat and saying hello to everybody that came on. And people going, wait, you're the DJ. Like, why are you out here? They don't get that. But it's like, let's bring some humility to this. Like, let me take me off the pedestal that people put DJs on sometimes. And it made such a world of difference. And then to document that and show people is also really important because at the end of the day, you want to talk about music, the music is my vessel, is what really is going to churn that fan base, is really what's going to get people to buy a ticket. And more than I want people to buy a ticket, I want people to come to my shows and know that they're safe to be themselves and they're safe to fucking dance and turn up that dance floor, but also know that I'm gonna get out in the crowd with you and dance with you. But as I'm building a fan base, which is harder said than done, I'm trying to create those super fans. And so by going out of my way and shaking people's hands and taking pictures with them and having conversations with DJs that are at my shows, like, it's so bizarre to me that they think I wouldn't do that, but I love doing it. You know what I mean? Like, I out-fan my fans, and I think that's the coolest reward I've realized throughout this thing is like, yo, there's people that literally want to just talk to me, and for some reason maybe think I'm too cool to talk to them, but I love doing that. And that's something me and one of my best friends, DJ Susan, and another friend, DJ Sherm, that's what we built our careers off of, is being approachable like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's one thing that I saw throughout it all is that you do have that energy where you are very approachable, where it's just like, come up and talk to me. Like, I want to be part of it, and bringing people together. Something that's very obvious from watching you perform is that you want that energy. House music's so good for that in general, and then you add your energy to it. And it just creates a vibe that everybody wants to be at, and that's what it goes back to.
Yeah, well, I just like, I mean, dude, don't get me wrong. Do I love DJing at a place where the DJ is the focus and people on the dance floor facing me? Like, sure. I mean, it feels cool. But really, I'd rather be in a small-ass little house party where people are on the dance floor facing each other. That's my vibe. So if I can take that feeling, because that's how I grew up in Chicago. We went to house parties. We went to juke parties, which is another word for grinding. Is we just had juke parties, right? Lines of girls and guys, every other person at a basement juking. And so, selfless plug, that's going to be my next release called Juke That with Rocky Fresh. So it's ode to some juke music. But I also realized talking to my teams, they didn't know what juking meant. They thought I meant juking with like in NFL, like, you know, the football players, which we can segue that. But no, juking is just another word for grinding, which I think everybody understands. But if I can encapsulate that house party feel at my shows, which is why the tour is called In Your House. It's to make you feel like we're just partying in your house. That's all I ever want, you know?
And so along with that, you have the In Your House tour, going back to Chicago, just signed with Put You On Music Group, part of Third Brain Records.
Third Brain, Steve Cardigan, Jake Udell, tons of other people behind that scene, but bro, we have just megazorded up. That's a Power Ranger reference for anybody who's too young to understand, but yeah, it feels really good right now. And then just signed with UTA, Will Cox, Steve Gordon, those are my agents over there, and powerhouses, man, so things should be rolling, yeah.
So that's leading into this second half of 2024. You know, what's next on the schedule with all that happening?
Yeah, so I got my residency here at 11 here in Miami. So that's going to be a quarterly residency. We have, I'm also doing quarterly at Dare in Fort Lauderdale as well. We have a New York show that's going to be coming up. It's going to be a little bit more smaller, more kind of intimate ticketed show in New York coming up in the fall. And a lot of other shows in the fall. I think we're really setting up for a big fall tour and just doing it right, you know what I mean? And just kind of, like I said, keep trying to spread this energy around the world. And then, yeah, try and tap in again to the pop-up shows that I was doing. I did a couple in Chicago, and I really want to like pop up at the most randomest places that I can along the nation. Maybe one in Jersey coming soon. I'll do anywhere. We'll do a bagel spot, do a laundromat, whatever you think. Let's do it. I'm sure you guys got the spots. We can have the boy open up and get some locals on the scene, because that's important too, man. I'm always trying to support the locals. I was a local, and I know the grind. So any way I can do that, I'm trying to. And those pop-ups are a great way to do it.
Damn, well, I mean, we could keep going for hours, dude.
Yeah.
But this was an awesome conversation.
Absolutely. I had a
really
blast,
enjoyed
man.
it. I mean, this was, thank you for the opportunity. I'm glad we got connected and we were able to do it. Down in Miami, I mean, no place better to do it.
No place better to do it. Make sure you guys, if you're watching this, hopefully you already follow Red. He's the man. I just met him an hour and a half ago, and literally the vibes are through the roof. I can't wait to get down and beat the beat, be on the dance floor in the Jersey Shore, baby.
We'll be doing it.
I probably will spike my hair and wear some new Ed Hardy gear, but or tell me not to. Either way. But yeah, I need to see you guys out there. I'm super excited. I can't wait.
Absolutely.
And yeah, Jake Shore on all platforms: Spotify, Apple, SoundCloud, OnlyFans. Can't show the feet. But it's Jake Shore on TikTok and on Instagram if you're looking, if you're interested. Hit me up too. This is another thing. I read everything. So if you DM me, I read everything. Some people are like, you'll never get this, but no, I read it. I don't always respond because sometimes it's just whatever, but if you send me a message, odds are I'm probably gonna respond. I'll definitely read it. So
fire.
Yeah.
Well, dude, thank you again. This was awesome.
Absolutely,
I appreciate
bro.
it, brother.
Appreciate you, man. Yeah, thank you.
And we're out.
Peace.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Y'all thought it was a fucking game. This ain't no fucking game, son.
Yeah, boy.